Becky Dowd, and this is The Journey to Salvation. Join me as we walk alongside real people and hear the unique journeys that led them to faith in Jesus. My guest today is Mary Jones. Hello, Mary.
Hey, Becky.
How are you doing today?
I am doing good, girl. I'm sitting in my granddaughter's bedroom looking out at the blue sky, thankful for this opportunity this morning.
Well, you know what the temperature here is right now?
I know it's not anything I want to be around.
Well, it's 27, and we have, I don't know how many inches of snow out there, which we get usually one big snowstorm a year. And so I would rather be where you are in Arizona than where I am. I've been
I
inside
know.
since, I haven't been out of the house since last Saturday, I think.
Oh
But
my
anyway,
goodness. Oh
so
my
anyway,
goodness.
but I'm glad to be able to do this interview with you today. And we've known each other. I was just thinking, I think I met Rex back in 2000, around 2000, and met you
Wow.
probably a few years after that. So it's been about 25 years. And
Yes,
we used
yes.
to live in the same town, and that's really where we got to know each other. But since then, we still travel some together and meet up at places to do different things, see different parts of the world. And
Yes, I was thinking about our trip to Guatemala. So just how awesome that was, and just having your friendship is so important to me, Becky.
oh, thank you, Mary. I feel the same way. But anyway,
Thank
let's
you.
get started. And Mary,
Sure.
just give us some information about how your life was growing up, maybe before you turned 18.
Okay. Well, I was born in Japan. My mother's Japanese. My dad was in the Air Force, and I lived there till I was about four. And then we began, as any military member, you move around a lot. So I was blessed. I lived in California, Arizona, Colorado, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina. And then when I was in the eighth grade, we were stationed in the Philippines.
Hmm.
And that was a whole wild experience. I rode a water buffalo. I mean, it was crazy wild and just a sweet time. And then my mom being Japanese, my dad had put in if he could be stationed in Japan or Okinawa. And so when I was in the ninth grade, we moved to Okinawa, and I was there my whole high school years. I graduated from there. And then it was when I was 18 that my mother, so let me go back a little bit. So my mom and I, I was always in church. That was something I was blessed that my parents loved the Lord, and they took me to church. But honestly, my mom and I always had pretty much of a strained relationship. We weren't that close. She wasn't my nurturer. My nurturer was my dad.
Hmm.
Um, but anyway, so at 18, she told my dad, she's going to leave or I'm going to leave. So my sweet daddy, that's a hard choice to have to
Oh,
make.
wow.
But so he called his sister that lived in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and he said, "Hey, what was that Christian school that you went to?" And she said, "Carson Newman." So he said, "Okay, well, I need to send Mary there." Well, what
Talking about
happened
your
is I didn't,
college, right? That's where you're
yes,
going to
yes,
start
that was
college.
yes, exactly. So I didn't get to go the fall semester when everybody comes. They're all new. They all share the same anxieties. They meet their roommates and do all that. No, I didn't arrive until Christmas break. So the
Mm.
only students at the college were the foreign exchange, the students from foreign countries like Africa,
Hmm.
China. Those were the students. The cafeteria was small, but even smaller because it was just those few students. And then I pop up. Well, and I had left this tropical island, Okinawa was like a very small island in the Pacific,
Hmm.
lovely, left with a sundress on and get there in East Tennessee. And it's probably very much like what you're experiencing today,
Hmm.
ice, snow, very cold temperatures. No one is in the dorm but the RA. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what has happened? What has happened? So it was during that time that I realized that I fully had to trust in Jesus because I'm just 18 years old. My family is 10,000 miles away. I did have one friend. So her parents were missionaries in Okinawa. So I did have that one friend, but
Hmm.
she wasn't back yet from her winter break. So I didn't get to see her till school started, but I did have her. And then God blessed me with friends for a lifetime that I still am friends with. So it was a blessing, but it was a very hard time
Hmm.
where, like I said, I had to fully rely on the Lord.
So, how long were you at that school? I know you ended up at another college.
Yes, yes. So I was at Carson Newman for 18, so a year and a half. And so then I had asked my parents, is there any way I could come back to Okinawa? I'm pretty homesick. I missed all my peeps there. And so my mom said I could come back, but I had to go back to college because I am the only one in my family that ever pursued a college degree. Not that that is the end all, because it certainly is not,
Hmm.
but she wanted that for me to finish college.
Hmm.
So I said, oh, yeah, I'll definitely go back, but I want to come back. So, yes, thankfully, I got to go back to Okinawa, and a really cool thing happened when I got there. I went back to my old church. So that was where a very young, good looking airman walked in and set his eyes on me, thank goodness. But I told him, it's obviously my husband, Rex, but he was adamant that we go on a date. And I was very adamant going, no, because I have to go back and I don't want to be in a relationship since I have to go back to school.
Hmm.
But if any of you know my husband, he is very persistent.
Hmm.
And thank God that he was. So we ended up, and I told him, okay, we'll go out on one date. So I'm thinking, okay, we're going to go to an authentic Japanese restaurant. We're going to eat with chopsticks. We're going to sit on the floor, and he's not going to like it. And then he's just going to move on, find him another
Uh-huh.
gal. So anyway, but needless to say, he loved the whole experience, and the rest is history.
Yes. So, what happened after that? Because you came back to the United States.
Yes. So I went back to East Tennessee, and Rex stayed in Okinawa. And in December of 1981, he sent me a ticket and asked me to fly to Texarkana, Texas, so that I could meet his parents. And so that was during Christmas break. And so on Christmas Day, um, he proposed to me. And so we were engaged.
Oh.
Um, yes. And then the next 8 months were pretty tough because then he went back to Okinawa. I went back to college. And, this was in the olden days when there were no cell phones. Rex was a little two striper in the Air Force, so he didn't have a lot of
Hmm.
extra money. So we would make one cell phone call a month.
Oh, wow.
And it was at that time that we planned our wedding. So we were 10,000 miles apart trying to plan a wedding. And but praise God, in August of 1982, my husband and I were married at a little church in Pickens, South Carolina, where my paternal grandmother lived.
Hmm. So, that wasn't a cell call, that was a landline call, right?
Yes, yes, girl. There were no
No
cell
cell
phones.
phones
Yeah, I
back
know.
then. So, it did cost money to call someone
Oh
long
yeah,
distance.
girl. Yes, and then when I would hang up from that monthly call, I would just lay my head on the desk and bawl my little eyes out.
Oh.
And my college roommate was like, why did I have to get the roommate that has a boyfriend 10,000 miles away? So, anyway, needless to say, Anne was a awesome roommate,
Mhm.
very understanding, and she and I are still friends.
So, you got married, and what happened next?
Okay, then Rex got stationed at Northern Arizona University. So he's still in the Air Force, and he got a job at the university with their Air Force ROTC. So I went ahead and finished my degree. And then after I finished my degree, Rex said, oh, you know what? I ought to go to college. And I'm like, oh no, because we've already lived in married housing for 2 years.
Hmm.
And if he decides to go to school, then it's 4 more years. So anyway, we he did that, and I'm so very grateful that he wanted to get his degree. So we did that, and in December of 19, Oh, I'm not always good with my dates. If he was here, he'd be very good. Okay, let's see. My son was born in 87. Okay, so in 1987, Rex got his commission into the Army as a second lieutenant, and our son Zach was born.
Okay, so that was in Flagstaff where you were living,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Okay. Yeah, you took us back there. I guess it was 4 or 5 years ago. We were in Arizona, and you took us to. We went to the Grand Canyon, but then went to a school there in Flagstaff, and you showed us the big lumberjack.
Yes, girl. We were the NAU Lumberjacks.
He was huge. I don't know. We've got a picture by him, but he was
Yeah,
huge.
he is very huge. He is very huge. And I think too, I'm trying to recollect, did we go to Zach's tree? I know I have pics of
Yes,
us near Zach's tree. Okay.
yes, we did that too on that trip. I think that was in 2020. We
Wow.
came the year of COVID. We
Oh,
surprised you
whoa,
for your
that's right.
birthday.
You certainly did, Becky. And
Yes.
what a surprise that
Yeah, you
was.
didn't
It
know
was
we were
awesome.
coming, and
No,
you
and
came
there
in.
you were sitting in my
I
living
know.
room.
That was fun. I have a video of
I
that.
love it. Oh, I love it. I love it.
Okay, so what happens next in your story?
Okay. Well, then we had, I guess, our first crisis of faith. So Rex and I had always been involved in church and Flagstaff. Like, we were a young couple. We helped with the youth. I mean, we just loved the community that we had around church.
Hmm.
And when Rex got his commission, we thought instantly that we would be active duty Army and we would be going to Germany and riding around in our brand new BMW. But the Lord had different plans for us. So at that time, there were a lot of budget cuts in the military. So very few people in Rex's graduating class got a direct commission into the Army. So Rex got his commission, but he was a reservist. And we're like, okay, well, we can't live on being in the reserve Army. Like, what are we going to do?
Hmm.
So Rex said, and thank God, we did cry in our little apartment for 2 days, I think, because it was, like we had this whole life planned out,
Hmm.
and then all of a sudden it was not going to happen that way. So we did cry, we prayed, but we obviously it was a tough time. But Rex decided, well, I've always wanted to be a coach or a teacher, so let me stay here and get my teaching degree.
Hmm.
So that's what we did, and after that we packed up and we moved to Texas, to Texarkana, where Rex is from. And he got a job in federal law enforcement. He was a reserve officer. And so that's kind of what we did then. And I think we were there probably 6 months. And as a reserve officer, Rex got deployed to Desert Storm.
Mm.
So that was another like, whoa, okay. So I was home with Zach. He was 3 at the time, and Rex was gone for 9 months.
Wow.
And yeah, it was a tough time. I'm young. I'm trying to be mom, dad. I have a 3-year old. But, the goodness of God and the people he puts in your path. I was very well taken care of.
Hmm.
Rex's family lived there. And so they were very good to take care of me. And then the blessing that we got out of that was upon Rex's return from being in Saudi Arabia, our daughter was born. So Tori was born 9 months to the day that Rex got back. So she is a tremendous blessing in my life. So I'm so grateful for her.
Yes. So Rex was. What happened after that? I know that
Okay,
at some
well,
point he was went to work for the federal prison.
yes. So he had actually gone to work for the federal prison 6 months before he deployed. So that was another blessing. Like he had that job, and with because of the federal laws, they had to let him keep that job even though he was being deployed. So when he came back, he went, seamlessly back into his law enforcement job with the federal prison. But it was 6 weeks after Tori was born that the warden at that prison said, "Hey, Rex, I'm going to go activate a new prison in Kentucky. And I'd love for you to come alongside me and be the assistant principal of the school that's within the federal system."
Hmm.
So Rex was like, "Hey, baby, are you going to be okay that we're moving with a 6 week old and a 3 year old?" I'm like, "Well, it is what it is." And so, praise God, we Rex accepted that job. We went. We Kentucky is a beautiful place to live,
Mhm.
and so he did that, and we got involved in church. We've always been very good, no matter how uh, how we've had to move,
Mhm.
that we always get immediately plugged into church, and not only just going, but we've always been very good about serving, like, Lord,
Mhm.
just use us.
Mhm.
So we did that in London, Kentucky. And then Rex, 2 years later, got promoted and we went to Illinois. And same thing, we jumped into church, we were serving, we loved it. It was just, God always has that community of believers that are like minded that you
Mhm.
can just connect with. And so we were very blessed with some very sweet people in all those places we were at.
Mhm.
And then in 1997, Rex made a transfer to Arkansas because there was a new federal prison there in Forest City. And that was going to be the closest federal prison to Texarkana. And Rex's parents were aging. So
Mhm.
we wanted to get closer to them. So he took the job in Forest City. And once again, we found a local church, got very involved. And I think it was at that point that we really started, we had a passion for marriage. And
Mhm.
so we taught Sunday school, we did a lot of marriage studies. We began doing counseling for people that had issues with their marriage. And, I'm straight up going to say, we were not professional counselors by any means.
Mhm.
We just loved marriage and just wanted to help people on their journey in marriage, because as we all know, there's a lot of ups and downs to that. But God was so good and just gave us couples that we could interact with, and we loved that.
Mhm.
So
And that's
that got us
at that time y'all
to,
lived in Forest City.
yes, yes.
Yes. And then I think it, like I said, I think it was in 2000 when I met Rex, and it wasn't long after that that y'all moved to Wynn, and
Yes, I'm trying to think, and I was trying to think before this. I think it was 2004 that we moved to Win, because Rex had then been deployed to Operation Iraqi Freedom in Iraq.
mhm.
So I was in Forest City when he was deployed, but I had gone to a women's retreat, and I honestly can't remember. I wish I had a better memory, but I think it might have been with Wynn Baptist.
Mhm.
But anyway, somebody invited me. I went. I was like, "Oh, this is awesome." So I went and visited the church,
Mhm.
and it was just a life changing experience for me. I think Archie Mason was preaching at the time,
Mhm.
and Zach really could connect with Archie, and the fact that Archie was not perfect. Because I think for my son, and we'll delve into him in a little bit, but Zach always felt judged. And so he always liked being around imperfect people, people that weren't going to judge him. And he said, I can tell that Brother Archie, he wasn't a goody two shoes all
Mhm.
his life. So Zach could really connect with him. And so that just made my heart very happy. And so then when Rex got back from Iraq, I said, "Hey, I've really been, you know, enjoying this other church, and I'm not bashing my other church. It
Mhm.
was just it was just an awesome experience when I went to Wynn Baptist." And so he said, "Well, Mary, I don't think so, because we're very connected here at our church in Forest City, and I don't want to leave." And I said, "Well, would you just go one time?" And he said, "Okay." So we went the one Sunday, and
Mhm.
it was the four of us. And at the end, when the invitation came, he said, "Are you ready to go forward?" So he had been blessed as well
Yeah.
by that time, that service. And so we did move our membership from our church in Forest City to Win. So, and then God was so good to us and used us there as well to be able to serve. And it was at that church, and I'm thinking it was Matt Pearson was the pastor, but it could have been Archie. I'm not sure. But we learned about mission trips. And
Mhm.
Rex and I were both 47 years old, and we had never been on a mission trip. And we'd been in Baptist churches all our lives. but never one that prioritized foreign missions.
Mm-hmm.
We've been to Mexico, we've been, uh, things like that, but never like going to the nations.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was because our daughter, Tori, who was 14, she wanted to go to Africa, to Burkina Faso, West Africa. And I told my husband, she can't go by herself. I mean, I love that she wants to go, but she's not going to go by herself. So
Mm-hmm.
you need to go with her. And so, fast forward the goodness of God, there was a beautiful lady at the church that found out I wasn't going to go. And she offered to pay half my way to go. And I thank God for her and her obedience, because through her, another friend of mine uh, said, you didn't even really know this lady very well, and she paid half your way. And I said, yeah, it's just how God works. When he wants you to do something, he will provide.
Mm-hmm.
And then my friend said, well, I love you, so I'm going to pay the other half.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, long story short, those two ladies had been friends, but they had had something happen. I don't necessarily know what it was. I didn't ask.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but their friendship was reconciled by that mission trip to Burkina Faso.
Wow.
And just the goodness of God. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
wild. So I got to go on that trip, and your husband, David, I call him David,
Mm-hmm.
was on that trip as well. And we had a wonderful time. And then Tori's high school principal was on that trip, and just, uh, you know, Matt Argo. And, it was a wonderful trip where
Yes.
we really got to experience what it's like. You know,
I think Jeff
some
and Kim
people,
Gibson were, is that when they were there for 2
oh,
years?
yes, 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 yes.
Yeah.
They certainly were, Becky. They certainly were.
That was the
And
connection.
yes, and just getting to see that play out, because you could say, "Oh, I don't want to go. I don't like the food. I can't speak the
Mm-hmm.
language." But God can take all that and just do what he does so well.
Mm-hmm.
So it was an awesome trip, but what it did was spur us on to want to do more.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't stop there. We were very blessed to get to serve in after that we were in Zambia, with were James and Marcy.
Mm-hmm.
Rex went to China with Dustin. Uh, we went to Vietnam. We were able to go to Haiti. We went to Uruguay. Rex went to Malaysia. And then we got to go to Guatemala
Mm-hmm.
with you and David. And that was just, uh, I mean, you share that passion for the nations, you and
Yes.
David. So it's just a beautiful part of our story. So I'm
Yes.
just so blessed that we got to do that.
Yes, that is a life-changing thing to do, is serve on the
Oh,
mission
yes.
field. All right. So where does that bring us to?
Well, Zach is going to be a big part of my story.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe we're there. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Okay. Well, Zach, like I said, he was born in Flagstaff, and he was our firstborn son. He was a lot of wonderful things, very smart, athletic, extremely charismatic. He came to know Jesus when he was 8. We were in Forest City. Uh, but during his, I think it was 8th grade, he began to stray from Jesus. And sadly, my son began to find trouble, and he began to make some very poor choices. And one of those poor choices was drugs. Now, at that time, he was keeping his curfew. Like, I didn't know. I mean, I guess I was very naive,
Mm-hmm.
naive as a mother. And, Rex was gone a lot, and I'm not faulting him for that. That he loved his army job, and but he was gone a lot. That was just part of that job, is to travel, and he would be overseas in Korea, Germany, wherever he needed to be. And I would be, left to, do my very best. And so I think a lot of that time was just survival. Like, I fed them. It might have been Happy Meals at McDonald's, but I fed them. We were in church. They were at school. I mean, but there were probably things I missed. And I miss his drug usage.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, he would come home at his curfew. hug me, kiss me, go to bed, start the day over. So I didn't really know anything was going on as far as drugs until one point when he was at a ball game in Forest City and he got arrested for public intoxication. So alcohol was something else that was a poor choice of Zach's.
Mhm.
Uh, but anyway, so we had to go down to the local police station there and pick him up. And sadly, Rex was gone. So it was me and Tori. And she was a young, I think he was 16 at the time. So she was 12. So, just uh, sadly, it was part of our life. And sadly, uh, I had a relationship with the local police that I really would not rather have had. I mean, I could go to Walmart and they were like, "Hi, Miss Mary," and that was because, they knew Zach,
Mhm.
So he was very mischievous. Like I said, he found trouble and he continued to make some very poor decisions that eventually led him to being on probation. So, you're in a small town, your son's on probation. He feels the judgment of sadly, he felt the judgment from Christians as well. And that was very difficult. And it was very difficult for me as a mom. Like, how do I fix him? Like, so we tried things like Rex working at the federal prison, took him down there, had him meet two inmates, that tried to talk, tell him, hey, dude, you don't want to end up here. So
Mhm.
you've got loving parents, make some wise choices.
Mhm.
But sadly, that scare tactic did not work. And Zach continued to abuse prescription meds. Um, and then we're going to get to the hard part.
Mhm.
Well, let me go back. He did join the army, so and we were so thrilled about that. He loved the army. He was an airborne paratrooper with the 82nd Airborne. When he was 19, he was deployed to Iraq as a Cav Scout, which and he, like I said, was with the 82nd Airborne, which is a prestigious Army airborne division.
Mhm.
And he really seemed to do well. He wasn't in his little hometown being
Mhm.
judged. He was with people that didn't know his past. So I think he was recognized by his commander for leadership skills. And Rex and I had always said, he's either going to lead people up the hill to do good things,
Mhm.
or sadly, he's going to lead people down the wrong hill and do bad things. And so prior to the army, he was sadly leading people to do bad things.
Mhm.
But luckily in the army, he was able to thrive. He was recognized for his leadership skills. And that commander said, hey, Zach, have you ever thought about going to West Point? And he's like, oh, no, sir, no, I haven't ever thought about that. And he's like, well, I really think you should. And Zach was like, well, I'm fairly smart, but I didn't, I wasn't really, I mean, he was goofing off in high school. So,
Mhm.
so the commander said, well, listen, I can't teach leadership skills, but I can send you to West Point Prep and get you prepped for all the, academic classes that you'll be taking. So when Zach said yes, he thought he would like to do that. We did contact the governor at the time, did the proper paperwork, and Zach got accepted to West Point Prep School in New Jersey. And we were thrilled.
Mhm.
Uh, but at any of the academies, you cannot be on Ritalin. And my son, if you haven't figured out by now, was ADHD. And you can look at that both ways. You can look at a lot of people say that label, they don't want people to know their kids have that label because a lot of people look at it in a negative light.
Mhm.
But for me, the ADHD label for Zach was the one that made him get on a plane and jump out of it. It's the one that made him fearless when he went to war.
Mhm.
Those are the things that teachers, coaches, a lot of them are ADHD, and we need those people in our lives. I am not ADHD, but I'm not going to go jump out of an airplane. I'm not going to
Mhm.
be a coach and teacher and lead people that way. So sadly, because he could not take his medication, he didn't want to study. Well,
Mhm.
he couldn't focus enough to study.
Mhm.
So needless to say, his grades were, average. But at the end of that year, you have to then sign and commit to West Point because they're going to spend a lot of money on you. So he said, Mom, Dad, I love you, but I'm not going to do this. And we're like, oh my God. But he was 20 at the time. So
Mhm.
we were like, okay, well, this is a decision that you will make, and there will be consequences to those decisions.
Mhm.
But he wanted out, and so he got out, and then his commander, he went into the 101st Airborne Division, so another elite airborne division, and he was stationed at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And so it was in September of 2009 that Rex and I received the worst news of our lives. Uh, we were actually in Atlanta, Georgia at an Army conference for Rex. And we got a call that our son, Zach, was in a Nashville ICU and he was not expected to live as the result of an accidental overdose. So we jumped in the car and raced to the hospital. And when we got there, Matt Argo, who was Zach's Army recruiter, was already there in the ICU praying over Zach. Um, and so Zach was unconscious when we got there and he never regained consciousness.
Mhm.
Um, so, um, so that was September 11th that he was actually, you know, he was at a party
Mhm.
and he had been sad about a friend, well, not a friend, but a friend's brother that had been killed in Afghanistan. So I know he was bumming, and Zach's go to drug was Xanax, just
Mhm.
so he didn't have to think about things. So I think that he had done that, gone to this party, because he was very social. If you knew him, he was very
Mhm.
social. So he went to this party, but sadly, there was a young man there that gave him an oxycodone and he cardiac arrested. And thank God, I don't know the names of these two young men that were at the party,
Mhm.
but they put him in his Forerunner and they took him to Nashville. Well, he was in Nashville at the party. Took him to the hospital, and I thank God that they did that because Zach was an organ donor, and because they didn't run from the house and leave him, he was able to donate 7 organs that gave people a new lease on life. And one of those recipients was Elliot, and he had been a colonel in the 101st Airborne Division, and now he's a pastor and he has become a dear friend to our family. He was at our daughter's wedding. Uh, so just, how beauty can come from ashes.
Mhm.
So we just are so thankful for Elliot. He is the only one we've heard from of the 7, but such a blessing. But that storm definitely, brought us to our knees. We had to say goodbye to Zach. He actually was declared brainstem dead on the 12th. So if you're not familiar with organ donation, which I hope you're not having to be, but
Mhm.
you can't donate your organs till you've been declared by a neurosurgeon that you are brainstem dead. So Zach had wanted to be an organ donor; it was on his driver's license. I wasn't really aware of that, but we certainly wanted to honor his wishes.
Mhm.
So uh, we then had to say that we had to let the organ sponsor lady, I can't think of her name, but let her know that we were going to honor those wishes. So we had to say our earthly goodbyes. And that probably was the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
Mhm.
And then watch his sister say her goodbyes to her brother. So, in giving those last hugs, though, I looked at his face, Becky, and he had such a peaceful look on his face. So I knew that despite my prodigal son, despite the crazy things he did, uh, that he was in the presence of Jesus.
Mhm.
And, just thinking about the first face that he saw when he got up there was his Savior.
Mhm.
That's where we all long to be if we love Jesus. Um, but those were some hard days, and I'll be honest, for all of us,
Mhm.
and I probably failed my daughter. Uh, as a mother because I was grieving.
Mhm.
And that's very hard. It's hard to parent on a good day,
Mhm.
but it's very hard to parent when you're grieving. So I know on many levels I failed her, but she is a beautiful young lady. She's now a mom. She has two beautiful kids. Um, and we are working, well, we're trying very hard to restore what I may have missed out on
Mhm.
when I was grieving.
Well, and I remember you did say that um, you really don't remember much about what happened days after that.
Oh
You were
no,
just
girl.
sort of
I
numb.
remember, right. I remember the community of Christ, my Christian friends,
Mhm.
some friends from work. I worked at EACC at the time. They rallied around me, but I mean, I didn't even go to the funeral home to make arrangements. That was my
Mhm.
husband and Tori. So, yeah, I have very, very dim memories of that initial
Mhm.
time, which could be a blessing. That was
Right.
obviously a very hard, the hardest time of my life. So I think maybe God just protects me from some of those memories.
One thing that you always talk about, Mary, is how your relationship was prior to Zach dying and then how it was after. Can you share that just a little bit?
Oh, definitely, definitely. I think being raised in a Christian home, now granted, it was probably very legalistic.
Mhm.
It wasn't until Zach's death that Rex and I did a study, and I wish it was a Matt Chandler study. I can't think of the name of it, but it was very life changing. And when your son dies of a drug overdose, you don't get to be judgy.
Mhm.
Like I was very judgy before that. But after that happens, it's like God opened my eyes to hurting people. I was a hurting person. And so
Mhm.
that's who my eyes would go to is other hurting people. And so, yeah, God was so good to take me from a let's check the boxes kind of Christian
Mhm.
to I could not live without him, Becky. He was my breath, like he still is. Like, and I can say this now, and I don't want anyone to think, well, I'm not there yet. I'm 16 years from my son's death. So it is not as intense as it was in those early years.
Mhm.
Sure, I still cry about him, things he's missing out with his sweet, beautiful little nieces. But I can say now for me, and this is really going to be really weird for some people, I would do it again, Becky,
Mhm.
to have the relationship I now have with Jesus,
Mhm.
the closeness, the knowing how much he loves me, how he loves me so much, Becky, that if I was the only one on the planet, he would have died for me.
Mhm.
It's just overwhelming to think of the love that he has for me. So, so as hard as Zach's death was, it catapulted me into a whole different level with Jesus. And like I said, I would do it again to be where I am at with Jesus.
Well, and because you too know where Zach is,
Oh,
he was a
yes. Oh,
believer,
yes.
even though his
Yes.
life didn't probably look like it, but he did
Right.
surrender his life to the Lord, and
He did.
um, you know where he is. We
Amen.
have to see that from God's perspective of, you know, he's where his final home is going to be.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. This is just a reminder to you folks out there. This is just our temporary home, praise God.
Mm-hmm.
If we have a relationship with Jesus, that eternal home, which I felt like I never really thought about heaven. I mean, I knew I didn't want to go to hell. So I was grateful I was going to go to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember ever hearing in church all about the reward. It was
Mm-hmm.
just like, I don't know. I just never heard a lot of sermons on heaven. And of course, after my son died, um, there was a lady in Wynn that brought me the book Heaven by Randy Alcorn.
Mm-hmm. That's
Now, that
good.
book, oh, well, I did not get to read it, Becky, because I started to read it. And if anybody, if you know me and you know me well, Becky, I'm very simple. I love Jesus. He loves me. I'm good. Like, I don't need,
Mm-hmm.
I, I know friends that study systematic theology. I know people that are deep, that they want to know more and more about Jesus and all the things. Well, that book, I started reading that book, Becky, it was way over my head.
Mm-hmm.
So I Googled, and I think it was either at that time or maybe later on, they have the Little Heaven book for children.
Mm-hmm.
So I got the Heaven book for children. I read that book, and that was all I needed.
Yeah.
Uh, but it really opened my eyes to what that's going to be like for us. And so the fact that Zach is there experiencing that before me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little envious.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, it gives you a different perspective of him not, being here, of him dying.
oh,
You
yes,
know.
not struggling. Satan has no hold on him anymore.
Yes.
So no, I am grateful where he is, and I'm grateful that one day I'll spend eternity there with him, my daddy, Jesus. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
all the sweet people that have gone before us.
Hey, tell this story about Rex meeting the young lady in China.
Oh, okay. Yes, I have to give a big shout out to my husband because I just confessed earlier I wasn't a good mom to Tori when I was grieving, but my husband was very good for the both of us. He pushed us, you know, because I didn't want to go back to church. I didn't want to be a distraction because church for me was very hard
Mm-hmm.
because it's emotional anyway. And then you're singing songs about heaven. And it's like, oh my gosh, I couldn't not bawl, not get emotional.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so Rex was very good in helping Tori and I redirect. And so it was 6 weeks after our son died that he was supposed to go to China on a mission trip. And he was like, no, no, I really don't need to go. And I was like, Rex, you need to go. And Tori was very, she wanted her daddy to get to go too. So we said, no, I mean, basically, too, you've paid the money, you need to go. So anyway, he went on that trip, and Kirk Owens was a missionary there on the ground at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And they were in a little coffee shop, a very small coffee shop, probably like, I don't know, 12 by 12, and the guys were in there, and this tall, redheaded white girl walks by. So, of course, she's standing out in Lijiang, China. I think, I don't know, it's 500,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
She walks by, and Kirk notices her and acknowledges, waves. She comes in, and they start talking. And she's like, yeah, I'm here doing an underground documentary on the church, the secret church in China. And but my airplane had issues and I didn't get to leave. So I'm not going to leave until tomorrow. So they started talking. Kirk introduces her to the group, and she says she's from Nashville, Tennessee. And Rex goes, oh, wow, my son loved Nashville, Tennessee. He was stationed at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. It's like a 50-mile drive away. He actually and he was our prodigal, but 3 months prior to him going to heaven, he started attending this church in Brentwood, Tennessee. And Amy said, what? And Rex said, yeah, our son loved to go to Nashville, and he would drive from Fort Campbell to go to this church in Brentwood, Tennessee. And she said, what was the name of the church? And he said, Fellowship Bible. And she's like, oh my gosh. And she started to weep, and she said, I was with your son the night before he died.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband's like, what? She's like, yes, he came to our singles group, and he was going around the room because he's very charismatic, but he was also in the struggle. He knew he needed Jesus, and he knew he needed Christian friends. When we're in the struggle, we need our people. We need our believing community to rally around us. So he knew he needed friends that love Jesus. So she said he was going around the room. I'm Zach Jones. I need Christian friends. So his mind was blown because we had asked in the ICU room when he was having his organs harvested that God would give us confirmations because the enemy wanted us to believe that he wasn't with Jesus
Mm-hmm.
because he was our prodigal for so long, because he had chose a lifestyle of poor choices. But God, that was the first, I mean, well, that was one of three big ones that God gave us. So it's like, had Kirk blinked, had Amy faltered in walking by that coffee shop,
Mm-hmm.
we would not have ever known that. But to know that the night before he died, on Thursday night, he was at a singles event at this church, just blew our minds, made us realize how deeply God cares for us,
Mm-hmm.
loves us, and wanted us to know that. So thank you for letting me share that, Becky. That's just sharing the goodness of God because that was life changing for me and my family.
Yes, that I mean that is truly a miracle from God that
Oh my
that meeting
gosh,
took
yes.
place because there's so many
Yes.
things that would have not made that happen, but God made
Oh,
that happen.
exactly. She could have gone on that flight when she was supposed to.
Yeah.
I mean, just it's like, wow, God, in China, in China. Yeah. So just an awesome thing and just a testament to how good God is and how
Mm-hmm.
much he loves us.
So, Mary, this journey took you to uh, working in a ministry, and I don't know if you want to go there just yet, but can you talk a little bit about what you and Rex are doing now?
Yes. So like I said earlier, our relationship with Jesus after Zach's homecoming became more real than ever. We just, well, like I said earlier, we couldn't do it without him. He was like our very breath. Uh, but shortly, and I had messaged my sweet friend Kim Dillard because I wanted to get the dates right about this. So Kim had a wonderful and amazing husband, Steve,
Mm-hmm.
and he was going to Little Rock for treatment for brain cancer. And I'm going to pull up her notes just because I want to get this right, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Um, because I asked her to share this with me because my memory is kind of, and especially right after your child dies or anybody you love passionately,
Mm-hmm.
you have brain fog. Brain, grief brain is what we call it. Some people call it brain fog, but it was grief brain. So anyway, Kim Dillard had a friend from high school that had been in the mission field in India. But he came back to America and was on furlough, and he was on furlough in Arkansas. So he happened to be staying in the mission house that was owned by the ministry While We're Waiting's founder, Jill. That was her
Mm-hmm.
church. So he was like, oh, yeah, you need to talk to Jill because she lost a daughter to glioblastoma when she was 16. And so Jill, the founder of our ministry, one of the founders of our ministry, started sharing some of her blogs with Kim. And so they instantly, if you know Kim Dillard, she instantly becomes a friend to you. And if you
Mm-hmm.
have her as a friend, it's a true blessing. So they started talking to one another and emailing and stuff, and they became very good friends. So when Zach died, Kim had asked Jill, could you please pray for them and add their names to your prayer list because they could really use your prayers. So I went to the first Mom's Day of While We're Waiting, and that was in October of 2011. And Jill had asked Kim to be praying for that. And Kim, she's a prayer warrior. So that
Mm-hmm.
was such a blessing. And then in April of 2012, they had a retreat. I think it was the second parent retreat, and it was at a family farm somewhere in Arkansas. I can't think of the town. But Rex and I went to that. Now, we went, but we were almost going to get back in the car because it was kind of scary. Like, we're going to go in here, we don't know any of these people, to talk about the worst thing that's ever happened to us in our life. I don't know that we could do this. Even loving Jesus, it was
Mm-hmm.
going to be hard. So I think we actually did turn around and start walking to the car, but we were like, okay, we've got a lot of people praying for us, our Sunday school class. Uh, we can't not go. We got to go. So anyway, we went to that retreat. It was absolutely life changing for us. And so Kim is the one that told me about that ministry, and because of it, it changed our lives. And the premise of it is, while we're waiting, how are we going to live? Are we
Mm-hmm.
going to be bitter? Are we going to be better? Are we going to take what happened to us and give purpose to it and give glory to God by giving people the hope of Jesus? So Rex and I decided that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to be a part of that ministry. But I wanted to also say that one of the first moms retreats that was ever in Wynn was at Kim Dillard's house. And I distinctly remember it. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
remember people that were there, other moms that had lost kids. And I know that they would attest to this too, Becky, that being with other moms that know the deep pain of child loss and also know Jesus, that is the perfect mix to help move you forward, because sadly, we can be isolated. It's the choice I wanted. Just
Mm-hmm.
let me stay at home. I just want to cry. I don't want to go meet people. I don't want to be around people,
Mm-hmm.
because you feel like you're alone. But when you get in that gathering, and then Kim hosting that, it and Jill was there, and Janice Brown, and they're also some of the founders of the While We're Waiting ministry. It was just, it was such good medicine for my soul.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just so grateful for that. And then thankfully, and it's too long of a story to share on here, but you can go to the While We're Waiting uh, ministry. We have a Facebook page. We also, you can Google it. Uh,
The
the
website
story of how the,
is, yeah, the website is whilewe'rewaiting.org.
yes, thank you,
Mm-hmm.
Becky. Thank you. Um, just how the refuge even started. And I love the name. I love that it's called the refuge. And I can't think of the Bible verse, and I should have looked it up, but it's in Nahum about the refuge, and it is truly like walking on holy ground. So if you've lost a child and you're not knowing what to do with yourself, I would highly encourage you to go online, take a look at the website. There are retreats in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Now, we have them all over,
Mm-hmm.
but for people probably in the listening area of this podcast, Hot Springs is close. You will be surrounded by people that love Jesus, that have experienced this, maybe not, maybe a different. We don't concentrate on the way your child died.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we're there to give you the hope of Jesus and love on you. And it's amazing. It's amazing. Rex and I have had the honor of serving in this ministry. I want to say 14 years
Oh,
uh,
wow.
of doing retreats there in Arkansas. We've now done retreats in California, South Carolina, Oregon. We host 2 retreats a year in our home in the
Mm-hmm.
spring. Well, we're doing one next weekend, um, and then one in the fall. And it's like, people say, why do you do that? That has to be so sad, listening to stories of kids that have died, chosen to take their life, kids that have died from poor choices and drug use, fentanyl overdoses, cancer, motor vehicle accidents, ATV accidents, crazy stuff. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's definitely sad.
Mm-hmm.
We cry, we weep with one another, but we also see God do a mighty work. So it starts on a Friday evening and it ends a Sunday morning. And just to see God do what he does, what only he can do by
Hmm.
taking broken people. And then Sunday, Becky, they don't want to leave.
Hmm. And they
They have
really made
found a
some
safe spot.
connections there, some relationships
Yes.
that
Oh,
probably
yes,
last
honey.
a long time.
Oh, oh, yes. It's amazing. And yeah, I've met some of the most beautiful parents in the world. I've heard about their amazing kids and I've gotten to meet them. And that's why
Hmm.
Rex and I, thank God we get to do it, because it truly is seeing God do great things,
Hmm.
restoring people's hope, giving them purpose back in their life. Because we've seen people that have come to the retreat broken. Like, I just can't do this. I can't even take a shower, to how can I help in this ministry? And people come from a different faith background and come to know the true Jesus. That's another thing we've witnessed. So just story after story of how God works. It's amazing. And we do feel very privileged and honored to be able to serve him in that role.
One thing about that ministry is the retreats are free, so you just have to
Yes.
pay for getting there. It's not just for like parents that have lost young children. Some of these children might be adult
Oh,
children,
yes.
and
Yes.
just anyone that's lost a child.
Yes, any type of loss. It could be miscarriage. It could be you gave birth to your child and they went immediately to heaven.
Hmm.
It could be a 55-year-old son who died of COVID. It's any loss,
Hmm.
child loss.
Those retreats happen all over the United States, and I think
Oh,
also in
yes.
other countries too. And I think they pretty much stay booked up, is from what I can tell. So there are waiting lists,
Yes.
but yes, I would recommend that too, because I just know the stories that you've told of how someone has just come in that Friday night and just you could tell they didn't want to be there, but by Sunday morning they were. You could already see healing and just reconnection with people.
Oh, yes. It's absolutely amazing, because we'll pray for one another. And that's always a beautiful thing for me to witness is somebody has shared their story. Uh, like my son, died of an accidental drug overdose. So if I have another mom in there and she suffered a very similar loss,
Hmm.
I'll just want to go put my hands on her and pray for her. And likewise, I've seen others do it, you know,
Hmm.
and they'll just go lay hands on that person and pray for them. Then after, we break, they'll go over there and talk to each other, encourage each other, and they don't feel alone anymore. They're like,
Hmm.
wow, somebody understands. But yeah, our retreats are free. Our ministry is a nonprofit.
Hmm.
We provide lodging once you get there. We feed you. We give you lots of snacks, um, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. I just can't uh, recommend it enough, because you will go there. There will be no judgment.
Hmm.
Because I think with my own loss of Zach dying by an accidental drug overdose, you do feel a little stigma
Hmm.
when they're drug related, or if the child chose to take their life. Uh, those are hard. So we do have. I do want to talk about this as well. We do have suicide specific retreats,
Hmm.
because that loss is different.
Hmm.
I don't personally know that loss. I know, drug overdose loss, but we do sponsor those. I know there are several throughout the U.S. as well as the ones in Arkansas, and those parents, I think it's good for them to be around parents that know that loss.
Well, I think that regardless of how that child died, that parents
Yes.
feeling the very same thing. Their
Oh,
their loss
yes.
is no different, even though the child died and the children died in different ways.
Exactly. Exactly. I think of that verse. Uh, he we get to comfort people because he comforted us. I
Hmm.
think it's in Second Corinthians, but
Yeah.
uh, so that's such a big part of what we get to do for others. And then when we see them want to do that for others, it's like, oh, thank you, Jesus, because now they're on their way. Because we have to at some point get outside of ourselves. And
Mhm.
I'm not saying that's easy, because there are days you don't want to get out of the bed, you don't want to take a bath, you don't want to do anything. But once you get to that point where you can move forward in your grief, I mean, that's so awesome, because that to me is a sign of God doing a mighty work in your life and helping you to have healing.
Because some of those people that come to your retreat, the retreat, also end up being facilitators or even just
Oh,
helping out
yes.
at the retreats.
Exactly. So the very first retreat Rex and I had, we had Brad and Jill, Larry and Janice here. And so
Mm.
they were a great help. But then the second retreat we had, it was just us. So you're trying to love on parents, you're trying to run, go get the food, you're trying to set up the food, you're
Mhm.
trying to take us to trash, you're trying to love on these people. It's a lot. So at one of our retreats, one of our very first retreats, we had a young couple, Lauren and Evan, and they came forward and they said, this has really helped us. How can we help serve you all?
Mhm.
And we said, oh my goodness, we would love to have you come and be our alumni servers. So, in order to help serve, you have to have attended one of the retreats.
Mhm.
Um, but they came, I think Rex and I were counting eight, they've been here for eight retreats. Now, this next week, when we have this retreat that's coming up, I'm now in the dilemma. I have lots of parents that want to help.
Mhm.
So it was very hard when I had to let Lauren and Evan know that we are so very grateful beyond measure. We could not have done it without them,
Mhm.
because they were phenomenal servers for us. They loved well, they served well. It was awesome. But now I have other parents that want to take that role.
Mhm.
And so uh, they were very gracious. And so I have a different couple serving this upcoming one. But it is, yeah, it's just wonderful to see, wonderful to see. And I can't encourage people enough, if they're listening to this podcast and they have lost a child and they're struggling to move forward, that they would just go look at the website.
Mhm.
We also have a Facebook page for While We're Waiting. Um, and it can be good, because you can get on there and know, oh my gosh, I am not alone. There are people that are, you don't ever want to grade people's loss,
Mhm.
but there are people that have suffered multiple child losses.
Mhm.
I don't even want to fathom that. But, but I always temper it with, go on there, because I think it helps, but don't stay on there. Like, because
Right.
as grief, I know when Zach died, I couldn't sleep initially. So I was just online, like looking for things,
Mhm.
and had there been a While We're Waiting right then, it would have been amazing.
Mhm.
But it didn't come around till later. But God's timing is perfect. But I know now, I see parents sign up for our retreats. We have a mom coming this weekend.
Mhm.
God has made a way, because we were full, but we had a cancellation, and now she's getting to come. She lives 6 miles from me, and her only son, was 12, and he died on November 28th. And on Christmas Eve, she was signing up for our retreat.
Wow.
So the the ability now for people to go and Google faith-based retreats, or I
Mhm.
need help, it's so awesome that they can go to While We're Waiting and find help, and then immediately uh, get to come. I mean,
Mhm.
I can't say enough about it. And I can't say enough about its founders, Larry and Janice Brown, and Brad and Jill Sullivan. And their daughter, Bethany, like I said, went to be with the Lord when she was 16. Maybe she was 17, after a struggle with glioblastoma.
Mhm.
But she had prayed for a storm at her D Now weekend, because she said her family had not had any storms.
Mm.
And then several months later, she was diagnosed with glioblastoma. A year later, she went to be with Jesus. And I I was thinking about this yesterday. Who really does that? Who prays for storm?
Not many people.
No. And in her doing that when she was 16 years old, I think about now all the people that
Mm-hmm.
have been served by this ministry. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we have Rex and I were honored to do a retreat in Germany. I know one of our facilitator couples, their daughter was going to Botswana on a mission trip and was killed right outside the Atlanta airport prior to her trip to Botswana. And her parents now, in obviously in honor of her, her memory, and God, have gone to Botswana with the While We're Waiting ministry to share in Botswana.
Wow.
So little did she know that prayer she prayed, that I don't know that I could have prayed that even as
Mm-hmm.
a 60 plus something year old lady.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, she prayed that, and look what God has done.
Mm-hmm.
And I think of Charlie Kirk, make heaven crowded.
Mm-hmm.
Heaven is going to be so crowded. And when we get to look around and see what God has done
Mm-hmm.
through the prayer of a 16-year-old teenage girl, I mean, it's mind blowing.
Yeah, I'm would be interested to know how many people have actually been helped through the While We're
Yes,
Waiting organization.
yes, yes. I can ask Jill. I think she posted something on our Facebook page
Mm-hmm.
about all the places we now host retreats. I want to say it's in the 20s
Mm-hmm.
in the US. Um, yeah, it's absolutely, because sadly, you don't think about child loss until it happens to you.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I mean, I know prior to Zach dying, I don't even really remember hearing many kids die, but when where I lived in Arkansas did seem to have more than any other place I lived.
I think one good thing is you and Rex knew how you felt right before you walked into your first meeting, and you know that's
Oh
how
yes.
probably everyone is feeling, and so that helps you in reaching out to them.
Oh,
And
definitely.
yeah.
Definitely. Yes. Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yes. Having not lost a child until 2009, I had no earthly idea. It was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to pray for them. And 2 weeks later, I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Their life has been altered forever.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are going on with our lives. And it's very difficult because you think the world should stop because your child died, but it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So the retreats just give us a time to bond with other people. And like you said, we know. So it truly is. I can't give a shout out enough to that ministry.
Yes. So hopefully, if there is anyone listening that, that doesn't mean that your child died last week. It could be years ago,
Oh yes. Oh
I
yes.
think regardless of when it
Because
is.
yes, because sadly, Becky, uh, deaths 20 years ago, I don't know when the internet came online, but anyway, when there wasn't that and you lost a child, you just basically had to suffer on your own. And then people thought you were odd, because I've read books about Mary Todd Lincoln, the Kennedys, the Bushes, presidents that lost kids but suffered in silence because
Mm-hmm.
there wasn't a while we're waiting.
Right.
You just had to suck it up, hide your grief, and move on. And some people thought Mary Todd Lincoln was crazy. And I think, I'm sure people looked at me early on and thought maybe I'd lost some of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but it does, we're not the same people anymore. I think for me and Rex, thankfully, we're better people because we do have the empathy of, knowing what it's like, but also the beauty that God has given us, because we're not just sitting around wallowing around in our sorrow.
Mm-hmm.
We're moving forward and prayerfully doing what God wants us to do. And that is to help others that are walking this journey with us.
Yes. So, Mary, is there anything else you want to share with us?
Well, so the ministry, while we're waiting, that is hard weekends, but on Sunday we are just rejoicing. We uh, usually just, with our co-facilitator couples are talking about, wow, was that not awesome what God
Mm-hmm.
did? But Rex and I, we were very blessed to retire in 2017, and that is, we moved out to Arizona in 2019. We found an amazing church, and through that church, Rex and I get to do premarital counseling, which I told you earlier on in sharing was a very it's a large passion in our life, and we love getting to do that. So meeting with those couples
Mm-hmm.
and sharing with them what God wants for a marriage. We're supposed to, you know, He's supposed to be the center of our lives. He
Mm-hmm.
is our priority. Uh, a lot of us have head knowledge, but we don't have the heart knowledge. And our marriage is a representation of the gospel. So we're trying to teach these young kids, and trust me, a lot of these young people, they're way smarter than me. We're just directing them like I told you earlier, I'm very simple minded. Some of these kids are very deep in their walk with Jesus, and it's evident because they want to come to premarital counseling. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
like somebody told them they had to be here; they've chosen to be here. But so that brings us joy. We love 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 doing that. We're currently doing two couples right now. That brings us a lot of joy. Last night we probably had 29 uh, young people and one lady around my age, and we have an 80-year-old couple. But we meet weekly, and it's our community group from church.
Mm-hmm.
And so Rex and I, this is our fourth year of doing that, and that brings us so much joy. And then lastly, my daughter and my son in love and my two granddaughters that I love more than life,
Mm-hmm.
they live 2 miles down the road from me. So getting to see them every day brings
Mm-hmm.
a lot of joy to our lives. And so we just feel very honored that God is using us, because I think when we initially retired, Becky, we didn't know, are we going to have purpose? Are we too old to have purpose?
Right.
Um, and we went to the Billy Graham Training Center in Black Mountain, North Carolina, and we're surrounded with people in their 80s still serving Jesus. So
Mm-hmm.
I just want to end with, you're never too old to serve him. And I want to go out doing that very thing. I want to be serving the Lord when he calls me home.
Yes. Yeah, I think y'all are probably more busy now than you were when you had jobs.
Well, and people would say that, and I'd look at them like, how can you be more busy in retirement than when you were working? But I've said a lot of things, and I've learned out that,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, you're
I've learned,
choosing what you're doing now, so
yes,
you
yes,
are probably just as busy, but doing things that you really love, and those things aren't 8 to 5. They're different times
right,
during the day,
exactly.
and
And all of it is just an honor to get to be a part of what God wants you to do. So
yes.
yeah, it's a wonderful way to get to end your fourth quarter or whatever I'm calling it now.
Well, Mary, thank you so much for joining me today. I wish I were in Arizona with you, but
Oh,
maybe
I
I
do
can come
too,
see you
Becky.
soon.
Hey, girl, do it. I'd love for you to come.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Becky. I so appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us today. New episodes release every Wednesday, so be sure to subscribe and get notified when a new episode is available. You can listen on the Journey to Salvation website, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. So, where are you on your journey to salvation?